Hi, my name is Rapelang Rabana. I'm the founder and CEO of Rekindle Learning, and I'm a technology entrepreneur based here in South Africa.
And what does Rekindle Learning do?
Rekindle Learning is a baby of mine that I've started up really to try and change the direction of e-learning and or ICT-enabled learning. It's really about how we use mobile and web-based learning technologies to improve the efficiency with which we learn and improve the rate at which we build skills and capabilities so that we can reduce the time to competency. So a lot of the time with e-learning, I think we digitize a lot of content, really duplicating what was done offline into an online environment without really asking ourselves how much more efficient or effective is this learning process. And that's really what I'm exploring here, both in an academic learning environment as well as in corporate training environments.
So what kinds of people are using the platform that you've got?
Primarily over the last just under 2 years that we've been going, we've looked at a lot of pilots and customers within the corporate training space, particularly call center environments. We've got a lot of young people that come from poor educational backgrounds, that when learning wasn't that easy a thing to do. And we find that with the learning tools, it's a much simpler proposition. It's no longer about getting a textbook and trying to navigate your way through it. It's simply about engagement, interacting, and you're learning through that process. And they could be primarily being taught things like product and sales knowledge, compliance and processes knowledge, staff onboarding activities, but particularly compliance and product and sales is the biggest need for companies at this point.
So specifically in practical terms, how does it work?
So the way it works is that we work with a company, maybe they're a mobile operator or maybe they're a call center environment. They have content that might have been in a traditional training manual, very static and linear and sort of overwhelming. We work with them to repackage the content that they have to suit our learning platforms. So primarily we look at chunking it up into smaller bite-sized chunks, baking it more into questions so it's more interactive, and that allows us to put it onto our mobile and web-based tools where the learner would ultimately experience the personalized learning experience where they can go through the learning content and it adapts to how they're performing until they demonstrate that they've gotten the content consistently correct and therefore demonstrated that they have retained knowledge. So it's really about how do we make content that is in real sense not rocket science to learn, but people still forget because we do put them in 3-day training workshops, overwhelm them, and then a year later there's still no application of that knowledge. How do we change it then so that a company can provide short, sharp, ongoing learning opportunities on mobile, desktop, tablet? So perhaps it changes where a company can now send an SMS or an email and do this 15-minute learning exercise every week or twice a month or once a month, and it's an ongoing learning process. So it changes the methodology of how learning content would traditionally be delivered into a way that's not as overwhelming and daunting. And 5-10 minutes while I'm waiting for a meeting, you can do that without really having to feel like I have to block out a whole afternoon of my day to get something done. And when it's not as intimidating as that and frustrating an idea, it becomes a lot more palatable to someone to go through.
And who are your clients?
Yeah, so we've got one large customer in Cape Town in call center environment and working with one of the mobile operators here. We also then have a number of companies in a pilot phase. So the pipeline is our sales process is quite long because you've got to get the content in. There's a various sort of change management processes that have to happen. And we find that that's really what takes quite a long time. Not so much using the technology, putting it on and getting it out there. It's really figuring out within the company's context, where's the biggest pain point right now? How do we get the various stakeholders involved and on the same page to actually make that happen? So it's much more of a change management process and drama than anything else, actually.
And how is the company funded?
I funded it myself at this point, so it's bootstrapped, largely because there's so much indecision initially about how we actually go about doing this. I had a couple of ideas about products that I've wanted to work with, companies that I wanted to work with who had interesting products, and over the 2 years I've also built up my own understanding and expertise of learning and training and development. And I just wanted to be in a position where I could really understand the value proposition of what we're trying to deliver and how it would add value to our companies to a point where they're prepared to pay before I really look at external investments. So eventually I will go in that direction. But for now, I needed the sort of absolute discretion of what are we really doing.
To be in control.
Yeah.
And you're planning to go out into Africa more generally?
Yes, definitely want to go into other African countries. So primarily at this point I'm in South Africa, but I do have a local partner in Botswana and Gaborone. We're looking at a interesting number of public sector projects there, as well as some in private sector. Same environment there, call centers or mobile operators in particular. Then we're also looking at Kenya In particular in Kenya, the pilot we've just finished there is in agricultural training, so looking at training of agricultural officers who go out and work with farmers. Typically, again, training is 2 or 3 day intense workshops, no real understanding of what people know. You have a register of who attended the workshop, but no understanding of retention, no reinforcement, no refreshers, so very limited knowledge impact. And that can now sort of be changed if one can disperse knowledge in a way that's easy to consume, easy to monitor what's happening, and a lot more palatable for the user to actually undertake. So those are the 2 areas now, but I really would love to work in other African countries, Rwanda, Tanzania, Nigeria. I'm just looking for the right opportunities to start there.